Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. We've had a tremendous turnout with clients and people that have not experienced ECS across the country, and we're glad you've joined us today. And we hope that you find this webinar very insightful and helpful. So our agenda today will consist of a 30-minute discussion where we'll be looking at how segmentation and stratification can really impact your business. We'll then cover off any questions you may have in a 15-minute Q&A. Feel free to click on the Q&A button down at the bottom of your screen and submit questions at any time. A couple of programming notes. We will be recording this webinar and sending out a link in an email to everyone who joined and registered for the webinar. Along with the recording, you'll receive the slides from the presentation. For those of you not familiar with ECS, we are a comprehensive business transformation company focused on helping clients achieve and exceed their goals. Our team of business leaders have the experience and know how to build a great strategy while helping you execute to success. We do this across all functional areas in a company, from finance to operations, sales, marketing, recruiting, and HR. We provide these services in basically 3 different ways, starting with our Fresh Eyes assessment, which provides companies a comprehensive outside view of their business and a clear roadmap forward. 2, we'll work alongside your team in a fractional support role to give you that additional horsepower you might need, either on a project basis or on an ongoing basis, just to add some additional support. And then finally, we will fill crucial C-level roles like CFO, COO, CMO, giving you that C-level executive you might be missing, either temporarily or even fractionally. Leading the conversation today will be Chris Lee, founder, managing partner of ECS, where Chris co-manages our operations and HR groups. His expertise in helping improve business processes and executing change makes him an invaluable advisor to our clients. He's perfected stratification and segmentation while at Aramark and now shares that insight with ECS clients across the globe. Joining Chris today is Rob Williamson, partner at ECS and a key leader in our finance division. He helps support companies by providing operational financial expertise. Rob has an extensive and comprehensive background working in both for-profit and not-for-profit companies. His experience includes integration of operations and finance, developing financial strategy, and creating working capital management. Now, obviously, this one's a little bit funny. And nobody ever wants to see sales and revenues that are flat, but it's becoming increasingly difficult in a post-COVID world to drive revenues and sales. I think you'll find today's conversation to be a real eye-opener and give you a clear strategy on how you can drive your revenue and profitability. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chris.
Thank you, Bill, for the great introduction and kind words. Good morning, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join the ECS team to learn about customer stratification and segmentation. Parts of the customer stratification and segmentation can be a bit technical. So our goal in this webinar is to break down and simplify the process. You can expect to take away 5 key elements: the exponential power of the methodologies, how to operate and leverage the methodologies, understanding the mechanics behind the processes, coupling stratification with segmentation, and finally, Rob's going to provide 2 real-world case studies revealing the impressive outcomes from utilizing the methodologies. The COVID-19 impact has been immediate and will more likely be long-lasting. I like to refer to the pandemic impact as a 52-card pickup event. Pre-COVID, middle market businesses were forecasting 5% growth rates. Now they are reforecasting a 60% decline in growth rates. Ongoing uncertainty, a longer road for recovery, maintaining customer relationships and engagements are top concerns for many business owners. The new normal is most leaders' time is constrained and fully leveraged with surviving COVID-19. Many small businesses are experiencing the drawdown of the government PPP program. Broken bank covenants, ensuring their workplace is safe, and will have or will need to extend furloughed or laid off staff members. Many businesses have taken their eye off their valued customers. Customers have clearly shifted their buying patterns since COVID-19. New ideal customers have emerged, and sales and marketing to target. Do you have your arms around your customers' evolving needs? Are you still part of the supply chain, or did your competition slip in and replace you during the pandemic chaos? Having empirical customer data pre, during, and after COVID-19 will be needed to support the scarce allocation of time and resources. Additionally, employers are shifting their workforces off-site or remote. Tools will be needed to simplify and processes will be needed to meet customers' new needs. Requirements are needed to keep customer engagement and retention at the highest levels. This morning, Rob and I will demonstrate two highly effective methodologies to address customer retention while accelerating your growth and profitability. Customer stratification is industry agnostic and can be conducted on all sizes of customer bases. Customer stratification reviews your customer base using a set of objective, fact-based metrics. This analysis allows you to focus sales and marketing efforts on those customers who promise the greatest upside. In our experience, companies have found that an intentional, targeted sales and marketing effort made possible by customer stratification analysis often leads to a significant increase in revenues and boost profits. It's long established business standard that the most direct path to increasing revenues is to discover more opportunity within your existing customer base that enhances your customer relationships. Customer stratification provides the data to create customer-focused sales strategies that can turn low-margin outlier customers into high-margin core customers, significantly improving cash flow. Research suggests that the depth of the relationship is critical to the company's growth and ultimate survival. Not all customers are the same. Using a stratification strategy can provide reduced days outstanding payables, improved inventory management, which customers are a service drain and not profitable. Finally, customer stratification increases your team's productivity, whether it's the CEO, sales consultant, account executive, or marketing team, to make better use of their time by quickly identifying opportunities that exist for your customers and the business. Typically, companies will develop a project team of 3 to 4 members to lead and develop, train, and implement customer stratification. Customer stratification is a 4-step process. Step 1, identify key indicators or business drivers. Narrow down the top, say, 15 or 16 drivers of your business. Step 2 is add 3 levels of thresholds. For example, quantify what good, better, and best looks like in your business. Step 3, transition the model to BI. Prior to that, though, there'll be a bit of scrubbing of your databases, testing and verifying the data to build the BI model. And step 4 is operationalize and train the team. This step cannot be overlooked or rushed. Many times leadership can't wait to get going. I can assure you, this step is where the magic of customer stratification happens. If everyone on your team does not know what is expected and understands how to access and fully utilize the tool, the results or transformations will follow once they do know. A business driver is a measurable resource that drives performance to achieve maximum profits for a business. Identify the top 3 or 4 measurable drivers in revenue, profitability, cost to serve, and loyalty. Drivers must be quantifiable, measurable, high level, and high impact. On this slide, I've highlighted in black cornerstone drivers that are frequent among ECS customers utilizing the tool. It is imperative to test and verify for each driver before proceeding to building the model. For example, I've highlighted this on the left-hand corner in red. Expansion site revenue did not make the cut because the data could not be quantifiable or reliable, so the metric was deemed not viable. The final step is putting each driver through a root cause analysis to ensure the driver viability, but it also determines their stack ranking by impact to really narrow down the list from 16, let's say, to the top 10 or 12. This is where we start to build the model. So step one, as you can see on the left-hand side, middle side, this is where the drivers have been established. And this is where we begin the top half of building the model. Drivers are narrowed down to the top 10 or 12, like I said. It's not uncommon for these drivers to change from year to year. Some drivers, for example, revenue, profit margin, become cornerstones of customer stratification and repeat throughout the stratification process. So the next step is to put the drivers, when you've narrowed them down to the top 10 or 12, into the appropriate classifications, which you see here is volume, revenue, profitability, cost to serve, and loyalty. So now you'll start to see, come into the picture here, is the thresholds. And they're indicated by green, yellow, and red here. And so there's 3 levels. This should reflect good being red, better being yellow, and best being green. Thresholds, again, must be quantifiable. They should be high impact, high level metrics that have a substantial role in determining the business outcomes. As you can see, scoring is dynamic and should be frequently tightened with the process. Now, what I want to highlight here is a couple things. If you can look in the bottom left, there's scoring by KPI, and there's 2 circles. And then for this particular client, we actually wanted to put in and track clients that have not purchased products or services over the last 3 months. So the 7 indicates they haven't done it in 3 months, and the 4 in red, they haven't done it in the last 6 months. These are triggers for this particular client that they can identify when they haven't been purchasing and their patterns have been broken. On the far right side, you'll see customer scoring, that once this has been developed and the customers have been stratified and scored, you'll see what buckets they originally start to get put into. So there's core customers, opportunistic customers, marginal, and service drain customers. And there's their scoring. And I'm showing an old scoring dynamic to a new one as the client begins to tighten the process to look for more opportunities. So this is now the complete model that you're viewing. Once we have the complete model completed, we need to transition that Excel model into a BI model. And this is a flow chart that demonstrates the transition from the Excel model to the business intelligence tool. So you can see moving the drivers and the customers and mapping them through an ERP, through the apps into the BI program, which the outputs are going to be the data and the reports. Some example ERPs for small business would be MS Dynamics or NetSuite. Some examples of application examples: Great Plains, Peachtree, QuickBooks, Salesforce, Pipedrive, or Smartsheet. And here's some examples of some BIs for great tools for the middle market would be Focus, Tableau, or Microsoft Power BI. So the scoring, now you're viewing an Excel mock-up at the end result of the stratification analysis using the methodology that I've described. But in reality, this exists in a BI environment and looks a lot slicker than Excel. But for client anonymity reasons, we had to replicate the model in Excel for today's discussion. The mock is sorted by A customers. So you can see in the top left-hand corner, I have a box around the A customers. And also it has been sorted by the number of product classes in supplies. So I have a box also surrounding that in the left-hand corner. On the right-hand corner, you can see the score. And I have a box surrounding that too. And the purpose of this model and where it gets simple for the team is it's the simple process of taking the reds to yellows, the yellows to green. You can see the thresholds above that indicate what it takes to go from red to yellow, yellow to green. There's 3 customers that scored marginal, and there's 3 customers that scored opportunistic. And again, Rob's going to delve in deeper about the scoring and about those dynamics in stratification. So please never share this information with your customers, suppliers, or competitors. This is an internal information use only. And then the final step and the most key step of execution is operationalize and train the team. So first you want to ensure that the executive support for the stratification initiative, that's critical. Has to be a top-down, bottom-up approach. Train the team on BI and the mechanics of stratification. I can't emphasize again how important it is to train any team member that is going to have access to BI, how to utilize it, access it, slice the data in BI. Establish expectations, post a scoreboard in the lunchroom or team member boards. Everyone wants to know the score. Integrate stratification into your current processes, whether it's a point of sale, inside sales, business development, account managers, or customer service. Tie the team member goals to bonus, incentives, merit increases to ensure the success of stratification. Create streamlined reports. For example, month-over-month progress. It's a great report to see the delta of the changes from month to month. Review stratification prior to contacting a client. Set the agenda. I liken stratification like LinkedIn. Before you go and meet a client, typically you'll go into LinkedIn, take a look at their picture, see if you have any common contacts that are in common, as well as seeing where they may have worked and some good camaraderie for those discussions. Refresh the data periodically to show progress against the goals. Evaluate annually the thresholds, the drivers, and scoring to ensure that the stratification is relevant to your business needs. With this, I'm going to move to Rob, who's going to walk you through customer stratification and segmentation in a little more depth.
Thanks for showing how customer stratification scoring is developed, Chris. I appreciate it. So once you have your stratification scores by customer, and you could have hundreds of them, hundreds of the customers listed, a useful technique is to bucket those customers into 4 groups, as shown on this slide. And the numbers in the groups represent the order of desirability, with 1 being the most desirable. So what do each of these 4 groups represent? What are their profiles? So starting with the core customers, these customers are typically buy a lot from you. They're very loyal, also good profitability, and also good, low cost to serve. They will often comprise only about 10 to 20% of your customer base, but will typically represent over 80% of your profitability. Now, the opportunistic group on the top left, these are also profitable customers. They're also low cost to serve, but they don't buy nearly as much from you. they're not as loyal, and they often have only a fairly short tenure as customers. And typically your opportunistic customers tend to be your competitors' core customers. So the service drain customers on the bottom right, these are customers that do have good sales volume. They also have good loyalty, but they've beaten you down on price, and they also have a high cost to serve. They are significantly less profitable than your core customers. Now, the last group, the marginal customers on the bottom left, these are customers that have low revenue. They also have low loyalty. They have beaten you down on price, and they tend to have a high cost to serve. So you can actually lose money on almost every transaction to these customers if you're not very careful. And you can further analyze your customers with reference to your ideal perfect world customer. And I'm sure you all have a conception in your head of what that customer is. So the first tranche at the top, the business that we want to do, under the 2x2 quadrant in the previous page, this would really be all your core customers plus a good chunk of your opportunistic customers. The middle tranche, the business that we have to do but need to tweak, well, this is going to be part of your least good opportunistic customers and your least challenging service drain customers. This is a group that we can certainly live with, but if we're able to shift a number of them into the business we want to do tranche, then we're really going to move the needle on both the top and the bottom line. And then the final tranche at the bottom of the page, business that we want to change, this kind of speaks for itself. I mean, it's going to be all your marginal customers as well as a slice of your service drain customers. And you're not going to be happy about any customer being in this group, at least for the long term. They tend not to be making you any money or not much money, and they also tend to take up a disproportionate amount of your time and hence high cost to serve. So once you've stratified your customers, you know their individual scores, and you also know which of the above 4 buckets they fall in. What are the techniques that you can use to shift them into a more desirable bucket? And in doing so, boosting your profitability. So again, going quadrant by quadrant and starting with the core customer group. Well, this is the highest quadrant, so you can't shift them into a higher quadrant. And it's all about protecting this group of customers. They're your core customers for a reason. So everyone on your team should know who they are. If a call comes in from one of these customers, it had better be responded to fast. Now, there is still some scope to improve the scores of this group, and how you do that is really facts and circumstances based on the individual customer in question. The opportunistic group in the top left, this is the group from which your next group of core customers is most likely to come. They're already good customers, they're profitable, they're just not buying often enough from you, and they're not buying with large enough volume. So this is certainly a group that's worth spending your marketing effort upon, figuring out how to broaden how many SKUs or services they're buying, and also trying to increase their purchasing frequency. The service drain customers at the bottom right, this is a loyal group of customers, often with high volume, but they're a real headache because they're incredibly needy. Their cost to serve is very high, which is hurting your profitability. Now, that high cost to serve is most likely not in your traditional P&L at the customer level, because the associated costs are likely not allocated by customer, but they're nonetheless real cash costs, and they're most definitely in your P&L. And this is a case where the value of stratification can really kick in, because it highlights very directly which customers have an excessively high cost to serve, and it consequently allows you to focus in on the specific element that is driving that high cost to serve, and hence allows you to remediate it. Now, the marginal customers at the bottom left, this is, as I mentioned, this is your most challenging group. Customers that are not loyal, they've got a lot of price concessions, and they have low margins. You certainly all know customers like this. These customers are not likely to transition straight to being core customers, but if you're successful improving their profile, they're far more likely to shift into either the opportunistic bucket, or possibly the service drain bucket. Now, there is a theoretical chance that you might make a decision to eliminate some of these marginal customers, but that will be an absolute last resort. It's typically far less difficult to improve an existing marginal customer than it is to win a brand new customer. So I want to shift gears for a minute and talk about segmentation. We've been talking about stratification, but segmentation is really a piece of stratification. You can think about it as stratification light. And customer segmentation, it's a process of grouping customers depending on certain characteristics, which could be demographics or behavioral metrics. A common segmentation technique, and one that we'll look at in a second, is by revenue. And I'll show you an example of some of the insights that doing that can bring. Now, a real world example of conscious segmentation as manifested in a go-to-market proposition, in this case by behaviors and demographics, is the Pei Wei and P.F. Chang restaurants. The former is the more affordable one. It has counter ordering, whereas P.F. Chang's is higher priced and has traditional restaurant waiter service. So the overall approach, again, done sequentially, you can see the numbering scheme here, starting at the top left for a revenue-based customer segmentation, is to gather your entire customer profiles in a list, in this case, including their last 12 months revenue. Now, customer lists rarely get purged, so once a customer has been set up, that customer rarely gets deleted. But then what you're going to do is you're going to remove from your entire customer list those inactive customers according to a defined criteria. In this case, no sales in the last 12 months, no purchases from you in the last 12 months. Once you've done that, you will segment your active customer list by defined revenue tiers. Once that's been done, you will import the segmented data to a dashboard, which might be BI, might be Excel, and from there, you'll have clean, well-presented, revenue segmented customer information that you can use for marketing purposes or for operationalizing more broadly. So in this example, a distribution company had 2,300 customers. It tended to focus on its larger customers, and it just addressed the smaller customers when it had to. Management did have a general awareness that a number of customers hadn't bought anything in a while, but that count was in no way quantified. So when this distribution company did a full look at its segmented customer revenue profiles, this next slide shows what it found. So of that list of almost 2,400 customers, they filtered out which customers did not have any purchases in the last 12 months, the no buys, and they were left with only 1,737 active customers. So 28% of the raw customer list was actually inactive. Management knew there would be a portion that would be inactive, but if pushed, they'd have guessed it might be about 10% at the most. So the fact that the true inactive count was almost 3 times as high as that, at 28%, was a big surprise. Now this page shows the result of actually segmenting the active customer list by revenue tiers. And you can see the revenue tiers on the column at the left-hand side. The column next to the right of it shows the count of customers that belong to each tier, and then to the right of that's just translated into percentages. And you also have revenue figures at the far right. So the big aha moment here was that the top 2 tiers were so highly concentrated in such a small customer count. Just 49 customers out of 1,737 active customers represented over 50% of sales. That's less than 3% of all active customers, representing over 50% of sales. So after having done that segmentation, which, as I said, was a huge aha moment in and of itself, they then operationalized things. They focused upon growing revenue at select customers, and they actually managed to more than double the count of A-tiered customers. And it was really this crystal clear look at revenue segmented customers that allowed them to focus their sales effort in such a methodical manner. And the other thing that they did is they gave all staff members laminated cards showing the names and logos of their top 49 customers. So there was no longer any ambiguity at all about who the biggest and most important customers were. So this next case study, in contrast to the one we just looked at, covers stratification as well. So this exercise includes the segmentation in the previous case study, but it goes beyond that to address broader customer stratification scoring. And in this case, it was a professional services company that had over 8,600 clients. And it was a company that didn't pay much attention, again, to its smaller customers, but it focused very strongly and exclusively on its larger customers. And in doing that, the outcome wasn't terrible by any means whatsoever. It was holding serve quite nicely and doing a great job of protecting its larger customers, but it was failing to move the needle in terms of any meaningful revenue growth. So this slide on the left-hand side, it shows the results of the revenue-based customer segmentation analysis, similar to the one we looked at in the previous example. And what you can see here is that this particular company's clients are far more bunched in the middle, but they have a much smaller proportion being the extremely low volume customers. And the pie chart on the right shows a different and broader look at the same customer base, but through the broader lens of stratification. Now, the revenue metric that's shown on the left-hand side is still included in the stratification exercise, but stratification is much broader. It considers profitability, customer loyalty, and also cost to serve. And in doing this, it really arrives at a true holistic weighted customer scoring outcome. And also the associated bucketing into the 4 groups that we talked about earlier. And what you can see is that under stratification, the least desirable quadrant, the marginal customers shaded in gray, was actually the largest single body of customers at this client, whereas the next largest, the opportunistic group, was in orange. Fortunately, the service drain bucket was very small. So after having done the stratification and also operationalizing it, what was this company able to achieve? Well, what they did in operationalizing it is they've really focused their marketing efforts in a far less scattershot manner than they had been doing, and they directed attention towards growing a select and focused group of customers. And they were able to shift them from, some of them from marginal to opportunistic, and also some of them from opportunistic into the core customers grouping. And by doing this, it actually paid dividends very fast. They secured improvements in both top line revenue of about 8.2 million in just over a year. And also they had an over 300 basis point improvement in margins in that same year. So that kind of improvement in both top line and bottom line is very difficult to achieve in just a year. And it was really the focused approach, the customer focused approach that stratification allowed that was instrumental in doing that. So the quantified outcomes from different stratification initiatives that you see here, they represent more real world examples from a selection of ECS clients who've benefited from the impact of stratifying their customer base. And when I say stratifying, to be really clear, what I mean is stratifying it and then operationalizing it. Because without operationalizing it into new and very focused behaviors, it's just a fancy BI dashboard, and that's of no use to anyone. So these real world examples straddle a broad array of industries. So represented here is everything from manufacturing, distribution, food services, and industrial services. So the point being that this approach is truly sector agnostic. And there's been a number of business books published recently, you may have read some, and they all tend to have a common theme that in that they tell readers to focus upon doing just the 1 or 2 things that really matter and not spread themselves a mile wide and an inch deep. And what stratification does is it provides a framework to determine what those one or two things that really matter are. And it provides it on a customer by customer basis, and supported not by hunches, but by real data. So at that point, I'm going to pause. I'm going to leave you with that thought, and I'm going to turn it back to Bill, who will moderate a short Q&A.
Thanks, Rob and Chris. Great overview on segmentation and stratification, and how it can drive revenue and profitability. The numbers at the end there are pretty staggering. To see the results from real life customers and to see that they've all had success is pretty encouraging. As a reminder, we'll be sending out the video and slides in the next couple of days. Chris and Rob will be available to you as well. If you ever have a question or a comment and you would like to reach out to them individually, please feel free to do so, and you can see their emails on the screen at this moment. So let's jump over to some of the questions and see what we've got so far, and jump in and start answering them. So first question is stratification right for my company? It's a good question. Chris, you want to take that one?
Sure, thanks, Bill. Customer stratification is industry agnostic and can be conducted on all sizes of customer bases. So it's a good fit for any company right now.
Cool. Thank you, Chris. Next question. The stratification looks fairly complex. Am I able to do just segmentation without getting into stratification? Another good question. Rob, would you like to handle that one?
Sure. So the short answer to that is yes, you certainly can, and that's what we've seen some of our clients do, is they've used revenue-based segmentation as a first step, and it's hard to overstate the impact that showing revenue-based customer segmentation brings. For a lot of people, it's truly the first time they've actually seen their entire customer list segmented in that manner. So there are some big operational insights that can be drawn just from seeing that list. So it's certainly something that I would endorse doing.
Excellent. Yeah, we have seen some pretty good success with segmentation. Next question. In a COVID world, does stratification provide customer stability, especially around those that have 5, 10, or even say 50 customers? Chris, you want to handle that?
Yeah, the nice thing about stratification is it's going to help you expand your base. Sometimes in COVID, what we're experiencing pre-COVID, an A customer was an A because they were continuously had continuous buying patterns, but with COVID, it's been disrupted. So the nice thing is that you can go through your customer base, actually cultivate new A's from your customer base, but also it gives you a profile to go for sales optimization and find new business development. So when you couple the base business opportunity that will be surfaced through stratification and what the new profile customer will look like, I think customer stratification is a good fit for companies today in the COVID environment.
Thanks, Chris. And we have a similar type question. I think, Rob, I'm going to give this one to you. In a COVID world, does stratification address the implications with stability, especially around we're seeing companies go out of business and are struggling to stay in business? Does stratification and segmentation address those implications?
So the quick answer is yes, it does, and the way it does that is some of the metrics on the list are things like how has the customer not bought from you in a period of time, what's your accounts receivable, your days sales outstanding. So there's definitely scope for, depending on which metrics you use, for you to get kind of a pretty nice early warning system into whether customer profiles are shifting or perhaps deteriorating. So that can give you a nice early warning system that, hey, some of my customers might be experiencing financial instability, and it allows you to have those, to evaluate the risk and also to have appropriate conversations with them.
Thanks, Rob. And I think that is it of the questions. Again, we want to thank everyone for joining us today. As always, we're here to support you and your business however we can, whether that is in stratification or segmentation or beyond. We have an experienced team of people that not only understand your strategy, but can help you execute. And we're here to support the community and the mid-sized business. And we're happy to help and have conversations whenever you'd like. So feel free to reach out to any of us or Chris and Rob, as you can see their information on the screen right now. Thank you again for your time today, and we wish you all the best in the rest of 2020.